Thank you, distinguished speakers, for your incredible insights on how rapid technologies and rapid advances in artificial intelligence and humanoids, robots are reshaping society and emphasizing the need for human-centered technology to actually develop and guide Korea's future science and technology policy. Now, we would like to move into session 2, titled The Return of Geopolitics or the Rise of Technopolitics, Korea's Strategic Positioning Amid US-China Rivalry. Now, this session will be moderated by Dr. In-Taek Han, visiting research fellow at CSPS Korea. Please welcome all speakers for the session 2 with a round of applause. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to session 2, the return of geopolitics or the rise of technopolitics. And it has a subtitle, which is Korea's strategic positioning amid US-China rivalry. My name is In-Taek Han. I'm currently a visiting research fellow at CSPS Korea. It is my great honor and pleasure to moderate this session with our distinguished guest. We are here today because we believe technology has the potential to revolutionize our lives, change our societies, and even change or reshape international relations and also our future. The keynote dialogue and session 1 examine the implications, both negative and positive, of cutting-edge technologies, most notably AI and robots. In continuation of previous 2 sessions, session 2 deals with technological competition, specifically the one between United States and China. And the panelists will discuss how South Korea might be best navigate the China-US technological rivalry. And we are extremely fortunate to have excellent panelists to deal with these issues with us today. I know we are short on time, and I know your patience is running out, so I will try to be very brief in introducing each speaker. And the first speaker to my left is Professor Kim Han-kwon. He's a director of Center for Chinese Studies at IFAN's National Diplomatic Academy, Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And previously, he was postdoctoral fellow at Tsinghua University and also director of Chinese Studies at ASEAN Policy Institute. So he will give us a brief overview of Chinese foreign policy. You have maybe 10 minutes or maybe 15. So please welcome Professor Kim.
Hello, everyone. I'm Han-Kwon Kim from Korean National Diplomatic Academy. I'm very happy to see you all today, and also it will be my honor to be a part of this wonderful session. I will today introduce U.S.-China strategic competition and China's foreign strategy based on international political views. The first, I'd like to talk about the China's vision and national goals under the Xi Jinping leadership. The first term of the Xi Jinping leadership, which began with the 18th National Congress of the Communist Party of China, CPC, introduced a vision of a Chinese dream, 中国梦, aiming for the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. Subsequently, the Xi Jinping leadership set the ultimate goal, building a great modern socialist country by 2050s, based on socialism with the Chinese characteristics. This goal is framed by the concept of the two centennials. First, the 100th anniversary of the founding of the Communist Party of China, CPC, in 2021, and the 100th anniversary of founding the PRC, People's Republic of China, in 2049. And second, China's view on the international situation. The Communist Party of China leadership entering the 21st century perceived the international situation as a period of strategic opportunity. For example, President Jiang Zemin said that the first 20 years of the 21st century constituted an important strategic opportunity period that our China must firmly grasp and fully utilize our strengths. And this positive outlook of the international situation continued under the Hu Jintao era and throughout the first term of Xi Jinping leadership. However, halfway through the second term of Xi Jinping leadership, China's hopeful period of opportunity transitioned into the period of instability and uncertainty. The major reason for the significant shift in Chinese vision of the international situation is mainly two reasons. Externally, first, deepening strategic competition between the US and China, and internally, downward pressure on the Chinese economy. Due to the changes of the perception of the international situation and US-China relations, the Xi Jinping leadership's foreign strategy has shifted dramatically from Deng Xiaoping's hide your strengths, keep low profile, bide your time, Taogang Yang to strive for achievement, fun fire your way. Furthermore, the Xi Jinping leadership is concerning that the inauguration of the second term Trump administration in January 2025 has further increased the uncertainty in international situation. The third theme is current status of US-China relations and China's domestic and foreign situation. I think China seeks to stable long-term strategic competition with the US based on three principles. The three principles is mutual respect, peaceful coexistence, and win-win cooperation. However, China expresses a strong will never back down if US harm China's sovereignty as well as security and development interest. And I'd like to see each sectors, what is really happening between the two big countries. United States was the political diplomatic setup. The US has strongly criticized China, pointing to the situations in Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. The US characterized China as a country that does not respect universal values of human rights and democracy. and also one that threatens the international rules-based order. Furthermore, in the process of debating and criticizing China, the US want to rally liberal countries so that the competition frame from US versus China to liberal democratic nations versus China, so that the US government want to get the advantage in the strategic competition. And China want to respond to this US criticism. The Chinese government pointed out Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region is not only international issues, but also domestically very sensitive issues called sovereignty and territory and unification issues. And also President Xi Jinping, who wanted to pursue long-term rule over the Chinese politics. These issues is very sensitive and intrinsically linked to the President Xi Jinping's political status and authorities, as well as the legitimacy of the CPC, the rules in China. So Chinese government using patriotism and ideological education. At the same time, the the Chinese government strongly control over the people's SNS control, the social media things. And using this policy, the Chinese government strength internal unity and spirit of the resistance against the US. At the same time, this nationalistic policy may stir the people's nationalism and enhance approval rating and loyalty toward the party and also President Xi Jinping leadership. And at the same time, the Chinese government externally emphasized diversity of values of social political systems. And the Chinese government said the values of human rights and democratic issues are not universal values, but rather unilaterally claimed by the US. And the Chinese government explained that there are many various the values and social political system. So the coexistence peacefully is the real the people, the international community pursue for their peace. And the military security sectors. The Chinese government most concerned that the US government link NATO and US the allies and partners in the Indo-Pacific regions. For example, the UK, France, and many other NATO states published their Indo-Pacific strategy document. For example, France, Germany, the Netherlands, UK, Italy, and Sweden, Czech Republic, and also as an intergovernmental organization, EU and NATO published their strategic document for Indo-Pacific areas. And next, not only releasing this strategic document, but also the NATO countries dispatched naval vessels to the Indo-Pacific region and joining in the military actions. For example, France, the UK, the Netherlands, and Germany, and also Sweden in 2024 announced that they would participate in the military drills in that region. And US, in 2021, AUKUS was inaugurated, Australia, UK, and US, and also invitation of IP4 to the NATO summit in 2022 to 2024. And recently squad in South China Sea. It is another challenge for the China's military security dimensions. The Chinese government must respond to it, so internally focus on the continuous increases in defense budget and military civil fusions for the future war. And they want to make tangible achievement through centennial goal of the founding of the People's Liberation Army. This is the table for what the GDP growth and the Chinese defense budget growth rate. For example, 2022 and 2022, this is a COVID-19 pandemic situation. So Chinese government, Chinese GDP goes down, but still the defense budget is around the 7%. So this will show the Chinese government to increase the military capability, whatever the Chinese economic situation is. Externally, China expected to pursue breaking through the Chinese containment and seeking to disperse U.S. powers. And economic sector, U.S. wants to seek de-risking or the exclusion of the China from some high-tech industry with allies and partner countries. So the U.S. government internally legislative policies like IRA, and externally using TPC, IPEF, and USMCA. Recently, as you can see, the Trump administration imposed a high rate of tariff, not only over China, but also over allies and partner countries. Japan and EU accepted it, have to accept it, but China, Russia, and India is opposed to it. And economic sector, the Chinese want to using this situation and internally using dual circulation policy, using the internal market for utilize for continuous development of Chinese economy. And self-reliance and advanced technology, the Chinese government want made in China 2024, and in 2025, and last year, the Chinese government announced the new quality productive forces. And Global South, strategically, Chinese government want to approach to this area using BRICS Plus and Shanghai Cooperation Organization. And Chinese government want to governance, the global governance. Chinese government already announced the Global Development Initiative, Global Security Initiative, Global Civilization Initiative, and this year, September, through the SCO, Chinese government announced global governance initiatives. Chinese government also want to emphasize the community with a shared future for humanity, and also want to advance of the Belt and Road initiatives. And after the tariff, the Brazil and India had suffered from the 50% of high rate tariff. And this September 25 SCO, the India's Modi Premier visited to China, and to see the Russia, India, and China's trilateral meeting. In the 80th anniversary of Victory Days based in China, North Korea Kim Jong-un attended, and this Russia-China North Korean meetings was interested. The Gyeongju APEC Summit at Busan, Korea, October 31st, finally the U.S.-China summit was held, and many people, many experts evaluated in truth in the U.S.-China trade negotiation. So this is the current situation, and also the U.S.-China strategic competition will continue, and Chinese government now think they got some advantage over China in the trade negotiations. So I hope I stop here, and we can further discussion in the later discussion session of this semester. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Kim. We started with the notion that U.S.-China rivalry may be a reflection of technical competition between the two superpowers. But after listening to Professor Kim's presentation, I have a feeling that rivalry is more than just technological confrontation. It seems to be that it is a byproduct of President Xi Jinping's national vision to modernize the economy, to strengthen its military, and increase international influence. And also, it may be a response to threat perception, right or wrong, to what Chinese may be seeing overly interventionist U.S. policy toward maybe China, Xinjiang, or Chinese values or political and economic system. And then, and especially because China perceived Trump's policy too much aggressive and hawkish. So if I don't know whether I kind of summarize Professor Kim's presentation correctly, but if my summarization, characterization is correct, then U.S.-China rivalry may be something more than or less than technological competition. Okay, now we like ask the second speaker of today. Dr. Song Hee-dal is a CEO of Financial News and visiting professor of the University of Seoul. Dr. Song is one of the most influential journalists today with decades of experience. So let's welcome Dr. Song.
Hello, very glad to meet you here. My name is Mr. Song Hee-dal. As you know, I'm actually a working journalist. I started my career from Joseon Daily in 1990, and last year I finished my 33 years job at Joseon Ilbo, and also later I shifted from Joseon to Seoul City University as a visiting professor. And this year, since July 1st, I have been working CEO and president of the Financial News, which is one of the major economic daily newspaper with internet news. Okay. So as Professor Han introduced, today's topic is Donald Trump's foreign strategy. So I prepared today's contents like this. So time has already passed more than we expected. So let me give my presentation very shortly and briefly. As you can see, I have written 4 books focusing on American politics and media, and also American Congress and lobbying phenomena. Actually, when I was working at the Hong Kong correspondent, I had an exclusive interview with former President Bill Clinton, and also a very important and high-ranking Chinese tycoons in Hong Kong. So first, let me tell you the worldview of Donald Trump in order to correctly understand the future of Donald Trump's foreign strategy correctly. I think that his worldview is summarized as this one, just 3 sentences, which Donald Trump expressed in victory speech last November 6th. Maybe, as you can see, maybe it's very little word, but let me tell the 3 sentences. Every single day, I will be fighting for you with every breath in my body. I will not rest until we have delivered the strong, safe, and prosperous America that our children deserve and that you deserve. This will truly be the golden age of America. I think Donald Trump's essence of his worldview is summarized as this one word: golden age of America. That means defeating Chinese challenge for world hegemony, global hegemony, and also secure the America's hegemony very dominantly and very absolutely. So for this, he wants to build the strong, safe, and prosperous America, not only for his generation, but also for a future generation in the United States. So I think that his foreign strategy maybe this as I said, as I written here, a golden age of America is the centerpiece of his worldview. And also, on the background of the golden age of America, he is now pursuing every words and actions since his inauguration this year, January 20th. So before he inaugurates as president of the United States, he mentions very frequently like this: I'm not isolationist, but I'm America first. I'm a nationalist and a globalist. I'm both. This was his mention when maybe 2016, March 26th. But anyway, that kind of thinking has not changed little. American greatness and defending Western world. Domestically, he wants to rejuvenate again, like Xi Jinping, America's greatness. So his thinking is very similar to former President Ronald Reagan and a very conservative politician Pat Buchanan. They are common in patriotism, anti-multiculturalism, and social conservatism. And in this era, his very unique foreign policy is also one of the manifestations to defend the Western values and Western civilizations, particularly in competition with China. China is a different civilization. Trump has shown very favor or closeness with Vladimir Putin. I think that this kind of gesture comes from his pro-Western civilizations, maybe a similarity. And anyway, his political slogan is what summarized as MAGA, Make America Great Again. But anyway, this is another version of Golden Age of America, I think. And for this Golden Age of America, Trump's foreign policy is now playing first in geopolitical sense. That is geopolitical reshaping. I think it is true. He is genuinely reshaping the global world order for the United States and by the United States and of the United States. So we can see very many phenomena and many instances like the Panama Canal, Canada, Mexico, Greenland, and Middle East and BRICS, China and Japan, even with Korean partners. He is now reshaping and reorganizing the global order in his favor, or in America's favor, I think. But nowadays, Trump's foreign policy or foreign strategy is mainly driven by the technopolitical purpose rather than geopolitical sense, I firmly believe. Because as it was manifestly and witnessed and confirmed by the modern history's success or failure stories, as you know very well, Korea's rapid success and rapid economic rise comes from the realization is that science and technology is the best tool or best weapon for the development and for the modernization. It was pursued by former President Park Chung-hee in Republic of Korea. And also, as we know very well, we Korea have been very successful and a little bit advanced country by dint of maybe science and technological orientation, Korean government. And also, China's quite rapid success also comes from their very emphasis on science and technology. Section 1, Professor An very briefly and very succinctly explained the Chinese government or Chinese CCP also very devote their all energy and resources to the development of R&D and science and technology very rise. Maybe Trump's policy can be, we can see, particularly in artificial intelligence and also crypto field, we can very confirm. So as you can see in this PPT, only just executive orders during 7 months, Donald Trump had issued 4 executive orders: Stargate project, removing barriers to American leadership in AI, advancing AI education for American youth, and White House AI action plan. Particularly, Stargate project only requires U.S. government to spend 500 billion US dollars. It is now more than ROK's next year's total budget, more than. And strategic pursuit by Donald Trump for the technological supremacy of AI, and you can see very easily. And also, it is pursued by alliance between Washington and tech titans, tech billionaires, such as Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, Alex Karp, and AI and crypto czar David Sachs. And his new and core partners are very numerous: Sam Altman, Larry Ellison, Masayoshi Son, Jensen Huang, and also recently Sundar Pichai even joined this parade. And also Trump has mentioned very frequently in campaigning speech, he wants to be a crypto president and he wants to build a crypto capital in the United States. As soon as he inaugurates as president of the United States again this year, he issued very successively several crypto rebuilding maybe actions by way of executive order, strengthening American leadership in digital financial technology in January, strategic Bitcoin reserve and US digital asset stockpile executive order March 6th. And even Genius Act was acted just July 17th this year. It is a vivid manifestation how much Trump is genuinely pursuing the technological supremacy, not only AI but also crypto, and this kind of efforts is now playing not only just AI or digital tech, but also green tech, biotech, and even space tech. Very fierce and maybe very important and competition with China in this field. So let me say my presentation's conclusion. I can say this age, the new Cold War between USA and China can be equal to say that the age of technopolitical competition and technopolitical war, I believe, and I think so. Because we are witnessing a very huge difference between old Cold War and new Cold War. Old Cold War, Soviet Union is the same maybe civilization like USA, Western or Catholic or Christian civilization. But China is quite different and very contrasting and very uncompromising civilization. China wants to build again their own Chinese supremacy and Chinese world dominion. So in this sense, but nowadays, as you know well, since the invention of a nuclear weapon, there can be no major war between nuclear power states. So for the global hegemony, only it can be done by a non-military or non-nuclear power. So Trump and Xi Jinping, particularly Trump wants to have a very good relationship with China for not having the major war with China. So this can be called as managed peace. And also superficially managed peace, but underwater, a very fierce competition in the scientific and technological field. As I mentioned, space, tech, digital tech, including AI and crypto, and biotech, and also green tech. So in this juncture, we Koreans should have a very wise and prudent strategy between US and China's war. So let me talk and let me discuss again after the third keynote speaker. Thank you very much for your kind listening.
Thank you very much. I think I found very interesting and rather unexpected parallel in their presentations. According to Professor Kim, Xi Jinping is pursuing the Chinese dream, something similar to American dream. So Xi Jinping is trying to bring back the past glory of China in today's times by having stronger army, stronger economy, and rich country, nation, and so on. And I think Dr. Song made almost exactly the same argument. Trump's goal is the golden age of America. So he is trying to bring back the golden age of America, just like Ronald Reagan did. But in this time, he's using his crypto policies, he's using his AI policies. So both leaders are pursuing similar goals, and both leaders are using similar tools. Is this the rise of technopolitics, or is this rise of return of geopolitics, or is it something else? So I think after listening to their presentation, I seem to have more questions than answers. Lastly, Professor Lee Seung-ju is Dean of Social Sciences at Jungwon University. He is world-renowned expert on politics of technology and economic security, and he has been consulting Korean government for a long period of time. So let's welcome Dr. Lee.
Thank you very much. And I'm very pleased to join this valuable venue, which is taking place in a very timely manner. And also, I particularly would like to express my deep gratitude to Professor Han for inviting me to this symposium. And, actually, I was asked to give a presentation about the South Korea's response to the US-China strategic competition, or particularly the high-tech competition. So I will try to focus on that topic. Again, we are, I think, running out of time, and I thought more and more people leaving this auditorium, so I will try to be very brief, and then I will set you free immediately after this session. In order to answer the question of how to respond to the US-China strategic or high-tech competition, we have to better understand the primary nature of the competition between the two countries. So in that regard, I would like to highlight a couple of points. Of course, Dr. Kim and Dr. Song very correctly mentioned the primary nature of the US-China competition, but I will briefly recap the major points about this issue. First of all, why high technology in the context of the US-China strategic competition? First one is that given the long-term as well as the multi-dimensional nature of the strategic competition between the two countries, it's going to be highly important to secure current as well as future competitiveness, right? So because a lot of scholars and experts tend to forecast that this strategic competition will last at least 30 years, up to 50 years, right? So in that regard, it's going to be highly important to secure future competitiveness as well. So if you spend too much resources to the current competitiveness, eventually you might, it may turn out to be a loser. So in that regard, high technology would be a very effective means to secure future competitiveness. Second point is that, as is well known, actually the war domains has rapidly expanded from Army, Navy, and Air Force to include the cyber space, right? So in the 21st century, the war fighting capability actually critically hinges upon the ability to wage war in multi-domains. So how to link tightly the 5 different domains. Actually, again, high technology is a key to wage a 21st century type of war and battles. The third point is that actually it has to do with the nature of the dual technologies. Actually, as is well known, these days, the boundaries between military technologies and the commercial technologies have been very blurred. And the time needed for spin-off and spin-off technologies, I mean from military technologies into commercial technologies, or from commercial technologies into military technologies, that time span has substantially shortened for the last couple of decades. That is what we have seen in the war between the Ukraine and the Soviet Russia. Actually, you know, the Ukraine-Russia war is a kind of a drone war, right? And the drone, who's gonna be? Do you know those drones are made by which country? Yeah, China. Well, China is a #1 exporter of those drones, but most of them are commercial drones produced by DJI. But those drones are actually mobilized in the battlefront without any modifications at all, right? So that has vividly shows that blurred boundaries between the military technologies and the commercial technologies. Yeah, this one. Let me move on to talk about the U.S. perception about the U.S.-China high-tech competition. Actually, Professor An left a couple of minutes ago. Actually, in his presentation, actually, Professor An talked about the Harvard Welfare Center's report published this year. But in my understanding, this report, again published by the Harvard Welfare Center, which was published in 2021, actually ignited very intense debates within the US about how to deal with China's rise in high technologies. Right? The title is The Great Tech Rivalry, China versus US. In this report, actually the research team found that in many areas of high technologies, actually China is on par with the United States. And in some technologies, actually, China already overtook the United States, right? On the other hand, in another research paper, actually, this is very well-known book, co-authored by Blackwell and Harris, dating back to the 2016. Actually, the general consensus within US is that in the face of the China's rise in high technology, actually, US is not well prepared to address this kind of challenges arising from China, right? That's one of the reasons why the United States is trying to securitizing high technologies in order to address the China's challenge in this area. And then what should South Korea do in this context of the US-China high-tech competition? Then in order to answer again to this question, we have to better understand the changing global nature of the high-tech science and technology field. First, on the left side, you can see that the collaboration between the United States and China in the area of science and technology actually plateaued in 2020. And then since then, the collaboration between the two countries began to decline. Right? On the right side, Is it well known that the US and China are engaging in very intense, again, intense competition in AI, right? The pattern is more or less similar. From 2021, actually the collaboration between the two countries began to decline, right? What does this mean, right? The global order in this area, I mean the science and technology, is about to be fragmented, right? South Korea should adapt to this rapidly changing environment, right? Particularly given that until recently, South Korea heavily relied on science and technology collaboration in the United States and China. But those two countries try to decouple in the area of science and technology, but South Korea in general is heavily dependent on the two countries. And the South Korea in general have to come up with a new science and technology collaboration strategy. That is one suggestion I would like to make. And the second is that actually, again, given the nature of the multidimensional game between the United States and China, actually the impact is not limited to high technologies. Already spill over into the other areas, such as the trade. The geopolitical or economic competition between the two countries actually spilled over to the trade patterns in the two countries. On the left side, it shows the changing trade pattern of the United States. The x-axis is the geographical distance, and the y-axis refers to the geopolitical distance. As you can see here, the share of China in the US trade actually substantially declined by 6% point for the last 7 years. And another geopolitically distant countries, such as some countries in the Middle East and some countries in Central Asia, which are under the heavy influence of China, actually their share substantially declined. Right? On the right side, China is more or less the same. China has made every effort to reduce its dependence on the countries with distant geopolitical relations, right? Those are the countries on the top, as you can see, again, the United States, South Korea, and Japan. Their share has substantially declined for the last several years. So we have to prepare for this type of rapidly changing trading environment, right? That's one of the reasons why South Korea have to diversify away from the China and some other countries. If you look at the South Korea's vulnerability, it's not limited to the trade dependence. If we look at another structural vulnerability, it is again well known that South Korea has a very competitive, highly competitive export industries. On the left side, it shows that South Korea has been consistently number 9 or number 10 in the world in terms of the export competitiveness. South Korea has a very strong, very competitive export industry. But on the right side, if we look at the right side, South Korea again has been consistently number 1 or number 2 in the world in terms of import vulnerability. Right? On the one hand, strong export. On the other hand, very vulnerable import. How to deal with this type of challenges? Particularly, one thing I would like to tell you is that the industries with a strong export competitiveness and import vulnerabilities are exactly overlapping with each other. Say, what are the strong export industries in Korea? You know all, right? What are they? Semiconductor, battery, electronic vehicles, etc., right? Those industries are heavily dependent on the import of MPEs, materials, parts, and equipment, right? So from the perspective of South Korea, in order to export in these industries, we have to import as well, right? That is the sources of the structural vulnerabilities. We have to reconfigure this type of vulnerabilities in order to stay competitive in the age of US-China strategic competition. Another point I would like to make is that if you look at this graph, actually immediately after the Japanese government decision to drop South Korea from the so-called white list, right? Japanese version of export control towards South Korea. Actually, South Korean government has conducted a very systematic as well as comprehensive analysis of the so-called supply chain, and found that there are more than 4,000 items with, as you can see here, with 50% or more import dependence on foreign countries. Right? More than 4,000 items. Out of 4,000 items, 3,000 items are from China. Right? That is another source of vulnerabilities. So that's one of the reasons why South Korea's economic security strategy actually closely related to the supply chain security or supply chain strategies. So supply chain strategy for the last several years has taken the center stage of the South Korea's economic security strategy. That is one way of dealing with the repercussion or ramification of the U.S.-China high-tech competition from the perspective of South Korea. Another case I would like to highlight is that this is the report done by the IMF. And because, as I said earlier, there are numerous forecasting worrying about the possibility of the U.S.-China tech decoupling. I have 1 minute left. If you look at this graph, South Korea is, of course, there are 6 scenarios, but out of 6 scenarios, the 4 scenarios tell you that South Korea is one of the countries that suffers badly from the U.S.-China tech decoupling. I would say South Korea would be the country that suffers most out of compared to other countries. Right? So South Korea has to be prepared for this type of U.S.-China technological decoupling. That is one of the reasons why I would like to pay attention to the high-tech competition between the two countries. Then, wrapping up, then what should South Korea do? I would suggest these type of policies. First of all, right, South Korea should not rely on one specific policy. Rather, South Korea should be able to creatively combine the various policies. Right? Sometimes those policies may have the trade-off relations. Right? This is what is happening in the era of the U.S.-China strategic competition. Number one, diversification matters all the time. As I said earlier, South Korea should diversify away from China, but also from some other countries. If our dependence is too much concentrated in a few number of countries. Number two, South Korea also should seek the Korean version of reshoring and friend-shoring policies. That is one way of reduce vulnerabilities. Third one, I think again Professor An touched upon this issue in the previous session. South Korea should be able to increase its technological sovereignty. That is closely related to the promotion of industrial policy. So how to link the technological sovereignty to industrial policy is a kind of key to the South Korea's sustainable economic as well as industrial growth. And the one last part I would like to highlight is the international cooperation. As I said earlier, these policies should be with a kind of trade-off relationship. Say, on the one hand, we have to seek technological sovereignty, but on the other hand, we still have to seek international cooperation. Right? But this is not a normal time. So we often say that this is the era of the normalization of the abnormal. So we have to be very creative in combining these 5 different policy sets. That is my suggestion. Let me stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for clearly identifying the dilemma where Korea is in, and also suggesting very complex and constructive ideas to overcome structural vulnerabilities and for South Korea, not to escape the victimization from U.S.-China rivalry. So I'd like to thank our panelists for sharing your insight with us. and I hope the students here have learned a lot, and I think that they also have questions for the speakers. So if you have questions, then you can scan the QR code and send in your question, and then eventually your question will appear on the screen over here. So if you have question, then send in your question now. Then while I wait for your questions to appear on the screen, I'd like to have small discussion with the panelists. Because we don't have much time, I will just ask one question and ask each speaker to answer with a very specific number. My impression is that US-China rivalry is at least two-dimensional, maybe 3 or 4 dimensional, but let's say it's two-dimensional. The one is geopolitical conflict. They want to be strong, rich country in the world. In case of Trump, he wants America to be strong again, so that it can become the #1 country as it was after World War I and World War II. And China wants to become a strong country once again. It was a strong country many centuries ago, but it was colonized, it lost war and so on. So it wants to bring back the old glory. So, and then any country that makes it difficult, it is potentially an enemy. And I think that explains why China find America uncomfortable and America find China uncomfortable. So one dimension is geopolitical conflict. The other dimension is technological competition. Both countries think that the best way to become rich and strong is by developing and acquiring modern technologies such as AI and cryptocurrencies and so on, or having very strong supply base and so on. So to me, rivalry between the two countries is not easily explainable in just one dimension. It requires at least 2 or 3 dimensions. So question to you is that if you have to choose a number, what percentage of the conflict is geopolitical, and what percentage of the conflict or rivalry is technological? Do you understand what I mean? So let's go. Let's start with Professor Kim. So how much of the U.S.-China conflict or rivalry is technological and geopolitical? Give us a number.
For me, it's 6.5 versus 3.5, and the high technology competition is 6.5.
So in terms of percentage?
It's 1 to 10. I thought it's 65% and 35% of Chinese government wanted to disperse their budget to develop.
Oh, the budget. Okay, you have. Okay, Dr. Song, please.
Yeah, very good and interesting question. I think, well, similarly, I think 40% or 60%, 40% geopolitical and 60% techno-political. But I think even Trump and Xi Jinping is maybe very competing in the field of geopolitics. It is pursued by way of very peacefully. Such as the title of the peace through strength. So Trump's goal is not to wage a war, but to maximize his own interest as much as possible, but not waging war, just threatening or maybe very unique his way. So I think that the most of them, more than or about 60% of the U.S.-China rivalry is now playing just not just in the field of the techno-politics area. I think so.
The safe answer to your question is that 50-50. Yeah? But to be frank with you, actually I have never thought in that way. Because for the last, I don't know, so like for the last several years, even a decade, I have argued that it is highly important to link the economy and security. And high technology is a very effective means to link the two areas. So in that regard, I have promoted the idea of the techno-economic statecraft. Actually, every country, like including South Korea, should be able to take advantage of high technology as a means to link economy and security. So rather than the percentage of proportion, actually, the way of linking the two would be more important. That is my point.
Yeah, that's very complex answer. Yeah, there is no really simplest solution to the dilemma. So it is correct to think more deeply. And we think that we are living in a time of revolutionary technological change. But according to historians, most revolutionary time in terms of technology was 1 century ago, when cars were invented, when airplanes were invented, when telephones were invented, when radio was invented, when TV were invented. And to them, AI revolution is kind of a continuation of the communication and information revolution that started with the internet. So some people like Michael Berry think that AI is actually a bubble, not a revolution. And the fact that he is making money these days may suggest that technology doesn't explain everything. It explains an important part, but maybe not. Okay, we have questions from students. If we have, okay. Oh, okay. So I will read these questions to you, and any panelists who would like to answer, please go ahead and answer. Maritime hegemony competition, and what should Korea do? Anyone who would like to take this question?
Let me go first. And I'd like to emphasize the strategic autonomy and national consensus on our own national interest and strategic priorities. First of all, the US-China strategic competition, it makes international politics as a big power politics. That means it's not the just, unjust, or right or wrong games. It is only, we have to see the power, and also this power, how to reset the international rules and order. And we have to analyze, expect which countries, big powers, new international rules and order, that is our advantage or disadvantage. If advantage, we have to extend our cooperation. If disadvantage, we have to compromise with reduce our disadvantages with the big powers. So that many countries between US and China have to think of it and how to try to make a breakthrough the kind of difficulties. So they think about strategic autonomy. They have a good relations with big powers, but not to be too much dependence on the big powers' rules and their norms. So that we have to increase our own, especially Korean-style strategic autonomy. For me, it is a self-strength based on strategic autonomy is very important. So that if we increase our strategic autonomy, probably we have, in short term, we have difficulties in relations with big powers, probably US and China. But in that case, we have got the base of the national consensus. What is national interest and what is your top priority? So that even though we have short-term frictions with big powers, but we can endure and we can gather together and we can overcome the difficulties and we can follow or pursue the long-term and stable national interest of South Korea.
Thank you very much. Well, how about this? We don't have enough time, but if panelists would kindly agree to stay after the closing session and willing to meet students and answer their questions, then probably we can finish this session now, and then and let our conversation or discussion continue even after the closing ceremony. Can you stay after the closing ceremony? Every one of you? Okay, thank you very much. Then I think I'd like to thank everyone for your time and all your patience as well. And this closed session of today's symposium. Thank you very much.
질문 있으시면은 최혜씨 끝난 다음에 우리 연사님들께 여쭤봐주세요.
Thank you, Dr. Han, for your wonderful moderation. We would also like to thank all of our panelists for our valuable insights. Please give a round of applause again for our panelists. Now we'll begin our closing ceremony. Please welcome once again Dr. Moonjun Kim for his closing remarks.
How was your day? It's long, right? Thank you very much again. Our distinguished guests, colleagues, and our participants stay until the end of the symposium. Really appreciate it. I sincerely thank everyone who took part in our 2025 CSPS Korea International Security Symposium. Today, we successfully addressed our core theme, Future of the Korea's Diplomacy in Global Tech Competition. We analyzed the impact of advanced technology on international security and discussed strategies to respond to this challenge. Through our keynote and 2 sessions, we heard excellent presentation and had lively discussion from our expert. I believe we have gained much clearer insights into Korea's diplomatic choices amid the US-China technology contest. Crucially, the symposium effectively connected the academic research with the policy planning in vital areas like science diplomacy, human-centered technology, and Korea's global standing. I offer my deepest gratitude again to former Minister Park Jin and the keynote speakers, including Dr. Han, Dr. Kim, Dr. Lee, and Dr. Song, and all participants for sharing their valuable knowledge. The Center for Security Policy Studies Korea will continue to lead research and dialogue. We promise to strengthen this platform for experts and policymakers to interact and collaborate. Your interest and participation are the main driver of our center's growth and the future of the Korea's security diplomacy. Finally, I want to sincerely thank the organizing team, Dr. Han and our senior fellows of CSPS Korea for their super hard work. As we conclude, I hope today's discussions inspire practical steps for all of you. I wish you a safe trip home and continued success. Again, thank you very much, everyone. 대단히 감사합니다.
Thank you, Dr. Moonjun Kim. This officially concludes today's symposium, Future of Korea's Diplomacy in the Era of Global Technological Competition. We would like to thank all our distinguished speakers, our moderators, and participants for joining us today. We would especially like to thank Minister Park, who is not here, but he was here a while ago, for his gracious presence, and the Ministry of Trade, Industry, and Resources, and the Incheon Free Economic Zone for sponsoring this event. Thank you once again for attending, and we'll see you in our next year's International Security Symposium. Thank you.
나가실 때 도시락
받아가시고요. 바우처를 통해서. 그리고 혹시 연사분들께 질문 있으시면 아까 한 박사님 말씀하신 것처럼 연사님들에게 질문하시면 될 것 같습니다. 감사합니다.
질문 있으신 분은 제가 그 저희 스태프분들한테 전달해 드릴게요.